So let's make sense out of the slope formula. The slope formula is m is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, but I can memorize that, but I want to make sense out of it. This is just really what we would do normally on a graph. We know that on this graph, the slope is the rise over the run. So how do I figure out the rise? The rise is right over here. Well, let's say that our point here, we're going to call this point 1. We're going to call this point 2. We could have done the other way around too. But if this is point 1, then coordinates of point 1 are 2 across and 1 up. The coordinates for point 2 are 6 across and 3 up. So I really like to put a little line on it, or saying like, that's my point 1, this is my x1, this is my y1, this is my x2, and this is my y2. Because my points are always x and y. The x from the point number 1 is x1, x from the point 2 is x2, and that kind of makes sense. So my rise is actually just the change between the height of 3 and the height of 1. If I was counting, I would have said 1, 1, and 2. The height here is 2. But if I don't have the graph, I basically would say, well, I ended up in the height of 3, and I started from 1. So this is 3 minus 1. y2 was the 3, y1 was the 1, and that gives us the 2. Same thing for the run. If I count, it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I don't have the graph, I'm going to say, okay, all I have is the fact that I started at 2, that was my x1, and I ended up at 6. So if I ended up in 6 and I started at 2, 6 minus 2 gives me the 4. So my run would be 6 minus 4, 6 minus 2, 6 minus 2, which that would give me the run. So it's exactly like doing the math. So let me just make it a little longer, but if my point is 6 and 3 and 2 and 1, and I try to figure out my slope, I'll say, okay, my slope is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. What if I call this my point 1, x1 and y1? On the graph, I did it the other way around. So let's see what happens. x2 minus y2. So my y2 is my 1. My y1 is 3. My x2 is 2. My x1 is 6. And I get that it's minus 2 over minus 4, which really, this will just simplify to positive 1/2. When I have this other one, I actually never did it, but the slope here was actually 2 over 4, which it would have been 1/2. And of course, we get the same slope no matter whether we call this point 1 or point 2 or point 2 and point 1.